Today is Monday, April 20th, 2015, and today's rant will be entitled The GOP's 19th Nervous Breakdown. So over the weekend, apparently 19 possible presidential candidates showed up in New Hampshire. It's sort of like a little convention where you get together and you just show off your wares, you show everything you got. Scott Walker did real well. Had some newbies over there. John Kasich. I can't think, there was one or two others. Mark Ehrlich from Maryland. I mean, who even knows who that jokester is? But here's the thing. If you take a look at, is Rubio really running for vice president at his age, or does he really think he can be president? Is Carly Fiorina, is she running for vice president, especially to be a counterattack, the attack dog if Hillary is there? And will she help bring women back to the voting polls for the Republicans? As I mentioned, John Kasich, he's the governor of Ohio. Is he there so that he can help bring Ohio in? Now, those three are premised on, let's just say, Jeb Bush getting the nomination, or possibly Chris Christie. I don't think Christie will get the nomination, but are they really running for vice president? Ehrlich might be claiming he can, who cares about him? So we had a lot of people up there peddling their wares. A couple of them might be running for vice president. Carly Fiorina, vice president, so that she can be a woman to counterbalance the ticket against Hillary. But we had a complete continuation of the necessity of the Republican Party to continue to move further and further to the right. We see that in Scott Walker. We see that in Chris Christie, we see that in Cruz, we see that in Rubio, we see that in Rand Paul. I don't even know, I mean, I could go over the whole list of other ones. You know, it just isn't worth it. I'd leave it to those 4 or 5. Jeb Bush was there. Jeb Bush is starting to get his swagger on, if that's what you want to call it. It looks like he's been going to the gym maybe, but he's got a long way to go. Scott Walker seems to be, you know, the flavor of the month. How long he can last, I don't know. I saw some of the clips of what he did. The interesting thing about the way he was doing it, he was, man, this guy is slick. I will give him that. He has his talking points and he can rattle them off. And he can be very effective because he has total confidence in everything that he says, even though it's a bunch of malarkey. But I noticed that when he was speaking into the mic, he would hold back after he finished, kind of like he was waiting for that applause. And almost seemed to me in his facial features that he was also looking for that applause. So he and his handlers had written in, this is where you're supposed to get an applause. I don't think Scott Walker can hold on. One of the things about Scott Walker is he is much further to the right of the top tier right now, if you just want to consider him and Jeb. Whether or not Cruz gets traction, whether or not Rubio gets traction, whether or not Christie, Rand Paul, Ben Carson, any of the other ones get traction, I don't really know. But he might even be further to the right than all of them, so to speak. And he is very, very slick when he speaks. But the contrast is that the corporate wing of the party, which is usually the one that wins, may not want him at all because they know that if he gets in, he will do the things that he says he's going to do and what he has done in New Hampshire. Now, if you look at New Hampshire's had some trouble economically. Their job growth in Wisconsin has been very poor. And to balance the budget, he's taken $300 million out of education. Now, the Republican corporate wing might want to see some of that. They don't want to see all of that. And you could start, if he continues to get some traction, you could start to see the knives come out against Scott Walker. He has a lot of negatives, and like I said, he speaks very well, he speaks authoritatively, he speaks with confidence. He's the kind of guy that will walk the room and introduce himself. People will remember that. He will look you in the eye. He knows all the lingo. He knows all the right things to say. But in terms of what he has actually done in Wisconsin, as that he can tout as a record, is probably very, very weak. And remember a couple things. Yes, he did get reelected in a recall. Yes, he was elected in 2010. He was reelected in a recall. And yes, he was reelected in 2014. But remember something, that those are off-election years, and then, of course, the recall was an off-election year. And the percentage of people that go to the polls in Wisconsin is just like every other state. That there are a lot fewer people going to the polls in Wisconsin during an off-election year than there are during on-election year. So the base that he is coveting, that he is going after, is really, really a very, very thin base. And all of these things sound very good to that thin base. But when he gets out there in a national election, you know, and even though the primaries are going to bring out the base, that the Republicans, you know, the corporate Republicans are well aware right now that they need to bring someone to the center, and whether or not he can move to the center. Now, I noticed, and I followed him a little bit, that when he does go for the general election, and remember, he did win the general election, but again, it was an off year, and much fewer Democrats go out. But he did get some Democratic votes. But the corporate Republicans just know that if he does become the nominee, that he will not be able to go to the center like someone like Bush would be able to go to the center. And that is having them worried. I could see if he continues to get the traction that he's been getting, I could see the Republicans coming out pretty strongly against him fairly soon, because they don't want it to sort of snowball. They don't want it to get out of hand. Now, Jeb has got he's got a quick learning curve. He's got to step up, but he's got to be out there letting people know he's a fighter. And it doesn't appear as if he's really at that stage right now. That's the stage that Scott Walker's in. Scott Walker, you know, for all the flaws, the tremendous amount of flaws that he has, he is quite a fighter. He will go out there and he will throw caution to the wind, and he will be just like George Bush, in the sense that George Bush, when he was elected, you know, had a margin of about this much, not much at all. And what did he do? He ran like he had some kind of huge mandate. He didn't give a shit about nothing. He did everything for his base. So we'll see what happens. But the 19th nervous breakdown is that if any of these people get traction, besides Walker, because remember, if they take down Walker, someone's going to fill in his place. Someone's going to come up there. So the corporatists, you know, that's why they're having this 19th nervous breakdown. Carson could come up real quick. Rubio could come up. If no one's... If Christie, if he's not indicted, could come up real quick. Somebody else that might be a dark horse would come up real quick. So this is something that the corporate Republicans really need to monitor, and they need to be prepared to do some action very quickly.